Okay, we're in Sif Tes. We're in the Sikha and Sif Tes. This is the Sikha and Tafshin and Beis of Rosh Hashanah and Pestera. We're in the middle of Sif Tes. There's a tremendous chiddush here in this ice. Okay, what are we middle discussing? The lashon of the Mishnah, Perek K of Pirkei Yavis, where it says Kol Machlokes Shehi L'Shem Shamayim Seifel Eskayim. And what is that? Zu Machlokes Shammai v'Hillel. So the Rebbe brings from Likutei Torah that the pshat in this is that Arizal says that when Mashiach comes, we'll pass on like Beishamai. This Mishnah is a source for that. This is where the Arizal says it. And that's the explanation, that both Beishamai's opinion and Beis Hillel's opinion are both to have a kiyum. Beis Hillel's opinion, Bisman Hazeh, and Beishamai's opinion, lost love. So Seifel Eskayim goes on both of them in the literal application of it. Okay, but the Rebbe asks him that you can't say Seifel Eskayim, because in the end of the day, loss of Lavai, Beis Hillel's opinion is not going to be relevant anymore. We're going to switch from Beishamai to Beis Hillel, from Beis Hillel to Beishamai, that is. Therefore, the Rebbe says that this Mishnah is discussing the time period of Tchias HaMeisim. And then the halacha will actually be like Beishamai and Beis Hillel both together. So there's Bisman Hazeh like Beis Hillel, Yemaisa Mashiach will paskin like Beishamai, and then after Tchias HaMeisim, it'll be like Beishamai and Beis Hillel together. What does this mean? Also the pshat. Okay, I think we should start from the beginning of Sif Tes again. We read the first paragraph, but I'm going to start again. The explanation here is as follows: Hamachlokes, the Beishamai of Beis Hillel. All of the arguments between Beishamai and Beis Hillel, halal metamin, halal metarin, halal oisrin, halal matirin, halal paislin, halal machshirin. It's to such an extent that the Gemara has a concern that the Torah turns into two different Torahs. They're so different in every area of Torah. So the Rebbe says, when is this true? When is this the case? When you have a human being that is an entity for himself, he's in existence, he's independent. And you have an existence of a world that exists in its own way, with its own nature. The Rebbe says, Halicha is olam loy, the lashon of Chazal. You have the ways of the world. So over here, when there's an existence of the world and we're trying to figure out how do we connect the truth and the Eibishter with the world. Over here, what's highlighted? What's the basis of a Yid Zaveda? There's a me. First, I exist. There's a world. That's how the whole thing starts. So if you're trying to bring the Eibishter into the world, but you're defining yourself, you're limited to creation, there are two approaches. There's the Chesed approach, there's the Gvura approach. On the Eibishter's Ratzon and Mitzvahs, on this level, there are two ways how it could happen, either like Beishamai or Beis Hillel. And here the Rebbe doesn't go through this bariches. We learned the Sikha before about this. This Sikha is almost a continuation of the Tafshin and Aleph Sikha that we learned from Shavuos. There the Rebbe speaks more bariches about the difference between Chesed and Gvura, Beis Hillel and Beishamai. Basically, the Rebbe explains, based on the famous Likutei Torah and Parshas Pekudei, where the Alter Rebbe says that mitzvahs loisese is on a higher level than mitzvahs aseh. Even though B'Pashtus it seems the opposite. Mitzvahs aseh, I'm actually doing something. I'm connecting to the Eibishter actively. What's mitzvahs loisese? I'm abstaining. I'm just refraining of something. So how is that greater? But the Alter Rebbe says the opposite is true. When you do a mitzvah aseh, that means that the keli, the maisi you do is a keli for a certain darg of holocaust that can be expressed in the teichen of this mitzvah. There's a certain expression, a certain idea of how holocaust is revealed in the world. That's the idea of a mitzvah aseh. What's the idea of a mitzvah leisasa? Mitzvah leisasa is saying something else. If the Eibishter says no, you can't rebel against him. Meaning that mitzvah leisasa expresses the idea that mitzad, the truth of the Eibishter's existence, you can't go against him. You can't lift a finger against him. To connect to the Eibishter, it doesn't demand to lift up your hands or to do an action and to express something specific. Adarabah, punkt verkehrt. The truth of the Eibishter is so powerful that it shuts everything down. Nothing exists when Hashem is here. Those are basically the two ways of how we bring the Eibishter into the world. There's a problem here. In other words, the basis of our Avodas Hashem is manazeh. It all starts with a problem. What's the problem? There's a Welt. There's an existence. The world is here. It exists. So how do I connect the Eibishter to the world? So there's one of two ways. Either find a place or an aspect of the world which is a keli to godliness. That's one approach. Another approach is be mevatel the world, negate the world, reveal the ultimate truth of the Eibishter, einad mavade, so the whole world, with all of its nature and all of the inyanim in the world, are batel mevatel betachlis. Right? Those are the two Eifanim, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So in that sense, Beis Shammai is on a much higher level. Beis Shammai says the whole world is not teifes makim at all. That's the idea of a mitzvah loisasa. Okay, but all of this is if the premise of a Yid's Aveda is that there's an existence of a person and a world, and now we're trying to create a connection. Avol mitzad halachas hatayr kivishim lamitosam. But once the truth of the halachas of Torah, the way they are in their real ultimate source, when that is revealed, she'einam boim lifol ba'olam. Here, the approach is not that there's an existence of the world that I have to impact and figure out how to change. The true will of the Eibishter as is fully revealed. Again, in the lashon of Chazal, al tikra halichas ela halachas. There is no halichas. There are no ways of the world. There is no opinion or existence of the world. It's just halachas. It's just what the Eibishter's will is. So gam chilukei adayis shebalachas hatayris, and now even the differences of opinion in Torah, she'elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, and both of these approaches have truth to them. Hem Torah achas. It becomes one and the same idea. Kulam nitnu miraya echad. They are all given from one shepherd. And here the Rebbe explains the point. How do you bring Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai together? So the reason is the Eibishter himself is Noisa HaKol. He includes everything as one. Yes, yesh boy beiza days to chiyuv and shlila. These two opposite ways of connecting to him, chiyuv and shlila. Chiyuv, the positive way, and shlila, the way of negating the world. It's all there by the Eibishter. Shneim kechad, and they're both there as one. Al derech mashakosov, and this is what it says by Matan Torah, achas diber Elokim, and shtayim zu shemaiti. When the Eibishter said that Aseres HaDibros, anoichi avai lekecha, and v'lo yiyeh lecha, which are really two opposites, were said as one. It's really one point. Umitzido yizbarach, from the Eibishter's perspective, and others by the Eibishter himself. Yecholim lavai v'lizgalas b'mitzias ha'olam k'moishem batzmusi yizbarach. In the existence of the world, the essence of the Eibishter is a world which is chiyuv u'shlila b'yachad, the positive and the negative all at once. The Yosef nimnan nois. The Eibishter is nimnan nois. What does nimnan nois mean?
The impossibilities of all impossibilities.
That's how it's translated. Impossibilities. In other words, it's impossible to say that anything is impossible. Well, more accurate translation actually would be nimna, that the Eibishter is nimna. It's impossible to say that there are nimnois for him, that there are things that are impossible. Okay, so for the example that the Rashba brings is it possible for Hashem to make a miracle where a person is riding on a horse and sitting in one place at the same time? Hashem can make a miracle that a person could fly on a horse. Hashem can make a miracle that something supernaturally can happen. But the question is, can two opposites happen at the same time? There are certain things which are noise. I can't be sitting here and be walking there at the same time. Either I'm here or I'm there. It could be a miracle that I could fly there, but to be here and there at the same time, that's nimnois. Those things are called impossibilities. Could the Eibishter perform a miracle of nimnois? So the word Chayker Yisrael that said, I don't even know, I'm not sure, I think Chayker Yisrael, for sure Chayker Yisrael, but Chayker Yisrael that said, by the Eibishter there's nimnois, there are certain things that are impossible. So the Rashba and the Tshuva explains that the Eibishter is nimna and nimnois, that it's impossible to say that there's anything impossible for him. So therefore, two opposites are true at the same time. On a deeper level, what does this really mean? Well, how's the Rebbe applying it over here to the concept of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai? What the Rebbe is saying is, Beis Hillel's approach is the world is a keli for Elokus. World, we can find godliness in the world. Beis Shammai's approach is no, the world is a contradiction to godliness. You have to negate the mitzias of the world. So Beis Shammai's opinion is really deeper. Beis Shammai is saying, you want to have the Eibishter himself? Not there's a keli for the Eibishter himself. Beis Hillel is bringing a level of Elokus that relates to the mitzias of the world. On that level, Beis Hillel is right. The world is a keli for such a level of Elokus. When Beis Shammai is saying the world is not a keli for Elokus, it's not that Beis Shammai does not recognize the point that Beis Hillel is saying that to some degree the world is a keli. It is a keli. But the Eibishter himself, if you want to have pure Elokus, that has to negate the Metzius of the world. That's Beis Shammai's approach. Right? So the question is, they're both true. Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai both have a point. It depends what darga of Elokus you're connecting to. Chiyuv or Shlila, a level of Elokus that's already mitzumtzum, related to our Metzius, or Shlila, or darga of Elokus that says that everything is negated. That's the difference between Anochi Avai Lekecha and Ayil. Says the Rebbe, by the Eibishter himself, by Atzmos, by the very essence of the Eibishter himself, this whole discussion between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai doesn't begin b'chlal. What's the premise of the whole discussion? You talk about the Eibishter relating to something, so you're speaking on a level where there's certain rules, certain definitions of how the Eibishter is going to connect to the world. Does he connect in an active way? Could the world be a keli for him? Could he not? By the Eibishter himself, he's the very essence of everything, and over there, Chiyuv and Shlila are not a contradiction. The whole discussion doesn't begin. The Eibishter, the Etzem, does not have to negate anything, and he doesn't have to be nitfas, he doesn't have to be received or accepted in any keli. By the Eibishter himself, the whole thing doesn't begin. He's nimna and nois. The two opposites are there as one. So once the very essence of the Eibishter is revealed, so now you can have both Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai together. They're both true. The Eibishter's full essence is revealed, but it doesn't negate existence. It gets integrated into the existence of the world at the same time.
The Shammai level of the course is not that level which we're talking about now.
Again?
The Shammai's level of the course, which is a higher level,
Correct.
It's not even that.
It's
level.
not nimnanim noise. Correct.
Correct.
It's like it's all. I guess you could almost like say it. It's if you want to look at it, mitzad the point of nimnanim noise. There's the Eibishter in Teva. Teva is also a lakos. Teva looks like it's not godly, looks like there's nature, but Teva is a lakos. That's the level of a lakos, which is, there's a keli for it in the Teva Ilam. Then Beis Shammai has an approach of Nes. What's a Nes? A Nes shatters the rules of nature. A Nes says, whatever the rules nature has, don't have any control. The Eibishter controls, the Eibishter decides, water could be Yabasha, and whatever it is, Shemesh begivlin daim, the Eibishter is Mevatel Teva. That's Beis Shammai. What's the highest level, nimna and noise, that a Nes and Teva become one and the same thing. By the Eibishter, by the essence of the Eibishter himself, it's not either Teva or Nes. By the Eibishter, he's beyond any Gedarim altogether. By the very essence of the Eibishter himself, the Nes and the Teva becomes one and the same thing. So therefore, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinion come together. Okay, so here the Rebbe explains it in the 3 time periods that we have regarding this the Psak Halacha. Let's see. So Bezet Toloi Hachilik B'Psak Halacha. So this is the basis here when it comes to the difference in the Halacha B'Machloikes Shammai v'Hillel when Shammai and Hillel argue. B'Zman Hazeh Halacha K'Beis Hillel. B'Maisa Mashiach Halacha K'Beis Shammai. B'Zman Atchiyeh after the time of Tchiyas HaMesim it's Halacha K'Beis Shammai u'Beis Hillel Gam Yachad. It can be both together. So the Rebbe explains, we're living today in a time, in a world of action. This includes today. Now, before Mashiach is here, Begilui. And the Gamat Kufa Harishayna, the Yemesa Mashiach, Lufnei Tchias HaMesim. And then, the next time period, when Mashiach comes, and now you have the Beis HaMikdash and all the mitzvahs, but it's before the time period of Tchias HaMesim. She'iyah Kiyam HaTayim Mitzvahs B'Tachlis HaShleimus. Then fulfillment of mitzvahs will be on its utmost level of perfection. Here, what's the main emphasis? That there's a world, and you have to come and influence and connect the world to the Eibishter. Again, the lashon of Chazal, halichos, olam loy. There's halichos, there's ways of the world, and you have to connect it to Hashem. When it comes to the way the world exists, and there are certain rules and certain levels of godliness that can connect. So the halach could only be like one opinion. And the other opinion cannot be applied spiritually. It could only physically, that is, it could only be it's only remains spiritually. Now we're living in a time when the halach is like Beis Hillel, the opinion of Beis Shammai we learn about in the Mishnah and Gemara, but it's not, we don't apply it. Mashiach, it'll be the reverse. Halacha Beis Shammai. And then the opinion of Beis Hillel is going to be only Beruchnius. When we leave this time period of action, where there's a world, and when it comes to the time of reward and the time of tchiyas hamesim, shemitz is b'teilos la'asad lavai. That's a time period where there are no mitzvahs anymore. And the Rebbe touched already many times in this sikha. What does mitzvahs b'teilos mean? Shabbatel geder atzivi lahadam. There's no command. The premise that there's an existence of a person that has to be commanded, that whole thing is bottle. So what do you have? The full revelation of the essence of the Eibish's Ratzon. That's it. Halachis shel Torah she'einam b'teilim la'ilam. It's the Torah that's not bottled forever. So now tia halacha ki b'shamei b'sil yachtav. Now we paskin like b'shamei and b'sil together. Kivin she's gal ba'olam ritzayne shel Kadosh Baruch Hu k'moshu batzmusi is baruch. The very essence of Hashem is revealed in the world. Nimna hanimnois. There's nothing that's impossible. So we have the opinion of Beishamai and Beisilul applied together, both begashmias. The question there is, that's probably what you're thinking about. How is it applied? B'poel mamish in this world, how is it applied? For example, lighting Chanukah night. Do you start with 8 or do you start with 1 the first night? It's nimnan noise. We'll have to wait until then to see exactly how this is applied. Doesn't say here. It doesn't say it's nimnan noise.
We can't understand.
Maybe we'll light 2 minaitis. We'll light a minaita b'shamai, but that doesn't make sense though. That's not.
Because we can do that now.
Right. Exactly.
Won't be a stira.
Won't be a stira. We will see. I mean, look, the concept that Rebbe is explaining, but the mamish, the physical application, the concept that Rebbe explains that it's a time period where the
It's these pictures that you turn them. You see these pictures that you turn. You see one thing one way and turn it. You see.
Saying there's certain pictures they're designed in such a way you turn it one way, you see one thing in the picture, you turn it another way, you see something else. So you'll have lasad love, you'll have the mile of both. Full gilui elikus. And when this full gilui elikus, the velt is bottle, no velt. But at the same time, there is a velt. And all of that will be in the mitzias of the world. Atzmus, nimna, and noise together. And it'll be applied. That the poil mamash will be the halacha like b'sham and b'sil. That's the ultimate pshat of Sefer L'Skayim. This is what it means. Machlekes Shil Hashem Shemaim Sefer L'Skayim. These 3 time periods. Okay, we learned this in the other sikha. We hear that in that sikha the Rebbe didn't go that far. In the other sikha we learned that Rebbe said, well, there's Beis Hillel, there's Beis Shammai, and Beis Shammai was the ultimate. Shiach comes real, and that's what the Arizal spoke about. The Arizal only went up to Beis Shammai. The Rebbe goes further. The Rebbe brings us to Tchiyas HaMesim. Right? And, the Alter Rebbe Tain says that everything, all Giluyim that happen Lasad Lavai are totally b'masenu v'vedesenu b'meshos managalos. It's totally in our Veda today. So there's the Vedas HaBirurim. If you look in Kisvei Arizal, what's the main Indian that Arizal speaks about? Birur Hanitzaitzis. Right? That's the whole, one of the main chidushim of the Arizal was that every single Gashmizik object in the world has a nitzah tzilaki in it. Even the stones have a nitzah tzilaki. Whatever you interact with Gashmias, you are revealing its teichen, its a lakus, its purpose, and you're revealing a lakus in it. That's the whole approach of the Arizal, and the chiddush of the Arizal. The Rebbe is going a step further than that. The Rebbe over here speaks about the fact that Tchiyas HaMesim, what's Tchiyas HaMesim? Tchiyas HaMesim is not birur on itzaitzis. The Rebbe, B'chlal, as it's known, in Tafshin and Aleph, the Rebbe said, Nista'im Avedas HaBirurim. That Aveda of Birurim has been done. The Arizal's approaches were a step further than that. What's a step further than that? The guf, the Gashmi gufa is connected to Atzmos, to the very essence of the Eibishter himself. The Rebbe used to say many times, the Rebbe says in Tanya, Uvanu v'chartem mikolam v'loshen, the Eibishter chooses the Yidden, the guf Gashmi, the very Gashmi itself will have revealed in an Atzmos, the very essence of the Eibishter himself. That's, the Rebbe is focusing here on this Inyan, on Tchiyas HaMesim, and that's the time period of Nimna and Nois, where the very Gashmius itself becomes connected. You don't have to find the Nitzah Tzilaki to connect to the Eibishter. What's the pshat when you say Nitzah Tzilaki? Nitzah Tzilaki is, sof, you're saying, the Gashmi itself, that's not connected. I have to find the Pesar Ruchni, I have to find content, I have to find, the Rebbe says, no, the very Gashmius itself is all connected to the Eibishter. That's a combination of Beishamai and Beisil, the highest level. I just saw in a mind that the Rebbe says this point also b'negei to the Rechush Gadol. Yidden came out of Mitzrayim. Yidden came out with an abundance of wealth, of money, and of gold, and of silver, and everything else that they took out of Mitzrayim, as the Gemara describes. So the Rambam says, in the Siyum of the Rambam, we just learned last week, that Mashiach comes, Madanim Mitzuyin Ka'afar, that all delicacies and all wealth and riches will be like dust. So the Rebbe says, a main point of the Gili Lasad Lava is, Pashat, the Gashmis, the wealth that Yidden are going to experience when Mashiach comes. Why? Why is that so significant? Because that expresses the ultimate Gili of Elokus. That the Gashmi, the Mitzias HaGashmi itself, just like we know, the ultimate connection of a Yid to the Eibishter is not connected dafka to the Neshama. It's dafka in the Guf. The Neshama is it's a very deep connection. Chassidus describes the connection of a Neshama like a Av and Ben. It's a very, very deep, very essential connection. Nothing can sever that kind of connection. It's still not the ultimate connection. The ultimate connection is the Guf HaGashmi of a Yid that the Eibishter chooses to be his. Not only the Guf HaGashmi, but all the possessions of the person that are connected to his Gashmi, the Guf, it'll be revealed, Lasad Lava, the ultimate truth of the essence of the Eibishter in everything, in the Guf HaGashmi of the Yid as well, and in the money that he has as well. And that's the Madana Mitzuyin Kafar. That's Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim is the Guf HaGashmi of the Yid. And that's the time period where Beis Hillel's opinion, Beis Shammai's opinion comes together as one. That's what I was speaking about there. Okay, Yud begins a new Inyan. I think we'll leave this for next week because if we started now, we'll have to start over again. Here the Rebbe goes into the end of the Rambam. There's another tremendous chiddush in Yud. This is the conclusion of the Sikha. Mitzvah, we'll learn it next week. What? How? Nimnan nice.
We understand, theoretically,
right. Practically, how?
We got a Mitzrayim and a Molech. We'll manage this too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is deep stuff.